What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Forged2Win podcast. On today's episode, I have Jeremiah Benson. Now, Jeremiah Benson is a real estate investor. He is a commercial real estate investor in Wasilla, Alaska. And one of the things, guys, that I am absolutely super excited about is he is from my hometown. We grew up literally in the same area. He is less than 10 minutes away from where I used to live. And, going and thinking about Alaska not being part of the lower 48, it brings me some sentiment to know that there are like-minded people in my hometown, which a lot of times I don't think that way. And so we connected, I think about 3 years ago.
Yep.
And since then we've touched base over time, but we haven't opened up a massive communication until recently. And he's got some really, really cool stuff going on, guys. He is focused on what it looks like to build financial freedom. He's focused on doing bigger real estate deals. He's learning, he's getting in the right groups, and he's purchased some really awesome deals and got some not only war stories, but some success stories. So Jeremiah, man, welcome to the Forged2Win podcast, man.
Ronnie, man, appreciate it, brother. Thanks for the intro. I'm just happy to be here. Before we hopped on here, I was telling you, this is my first real podcast. So, history's being made, brother.
History's being made. There we go. I love it. So to start off, I'd like you to unpack for the audience where your business is today, right? Where is your focus? What are you focused on? What are you trying to build? What are you doing? What are you doing out in the field right now? What does that look like?
We only have an hour, you said?
As much as we want to go. There we go.
Yeah. No, I say that because whenever someone asks me that question right now, I get a little uneasy, and I'm just going to be honest. I'm going a lot of different directions.
Okay.
And, before we hopped on here, I was telling you about just being in the season of discovery and, starting over in a new career about 3.5 years ago. And I'm doing a lot of things, and I have recently been trying to rein it in, but if I could nail it down, my main focus right now is to really hone in my skills in regards to commercial real estate investing. I do earn active income as an agent. I do sell residential homes, help people buy. I do have a small commercial property management portfolio. I do commercial leasing with some other revenue streams, on the side. But I would say my main focus right now is to build my network and apply the skills and relationships that I have gained into cash flowing commercial assets that build long-term wealth.
That's awesome. And guys, just so you know, Jeremiah is being quite humble. He is in some commercial buildings, which I'm sure we're going to get into here on the stuff. He's also not just an agent, but this dude's a rock star agent.
Make me blush.
You got anybody who's in Alaska, from the leasing side, from the agent side, finding stuff, you guys want to know Jeremiah because he's a rock star. He's being very humble. So I absolutely love that. And I love that you're jumping into this commercial world and you've been able to successfully bridge the gap and separate the difference between active and long-term wealth, right? Building that long-term wealth and choosing commercial as your avenue, right? Especially with commercial leasing and some of your property management, you're able to take some of those skills and apply them in a way that gives you a head start above what a lot of other people might be, right? So where are you in commercial? How many properties do you own? Do you own one? What does that look like?
Yeah, so just to back it up just a little bit, right? My background is your typical blue collar commercial plumbing, heating business. I was a W-2 employee for a pretty large company that plumbed and heated hospitals, schools, large multifamily. You name it, right? And so that was kind of the world I lived in. And within that world, it's pretty tight, right? You got your GCs, you typically bid to, sometimes you do bid work off the plans room, but really you have a pretty tight network of people that are approaching you for work. So
right.
when I left that and pursued this, I had this vision in my head. And when I left there, I was going to be a commercial real estate investor. I chose to kind of hop into the sales aspect. I met a guy, Kevin Cross. He's a very, very sharp businessman, realtor, person in general. And so I hopped into real estate sales with him and just kind of progressed. And being in that world of sales, like, you really gotta improve mindset, right? You gotta develop sales skills. You have to always be trying to build a better mousetrap.
Yeah.
And so
it's a mind game.
It's a mind game, and you can't roll over. And so, like, I always had this desire to own commercial real estate, cash flow to build wealth. Like, I knew the transactional sales game was something that needed and still needs to happen, but you can get rich doing that, but you can't get wealthy.
Yeah. So. Dude, that's awesome. So that's an amazing background. So that led you to the agent side, which led you to the commercial. What was your first commercial deal? I want you to jump into it, bro. This is the meat. This is the meat right here.
So my first commercial deal was a 16-unit hotel in Barrow, Alaska.
Okay.
Seller had owned, well, it was a motel / he had a little a business, with selling retail and like fresh bread and stuff. But anyways, it was operating as a hotel, and he was burned out, right? So he wanted to list. He had it for sale for a while. It wasn't moving. And when we connected, we kind of ran through the numbers. We kind of talked about valuation. Like, if a buyer was to come, here's how they would evaluate this property. We chose the net operating income approach and just kind of listed it in the range that, someone could probably get long-term debt on it. So listed it, and it was a process. Like, it's Barrow, Alaska, right? They've made movies about Barrow. It's dark for 3 months at a time up there. But we ended up finding a buyer, and we closed it. We closed it at 2.3 mil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. So that's the first deal. I know, what is your focus right now? Like, what are you focused on trying to acquire now?
Yeah. So I could just rewind a little bit, kind of run you through my progression.
That would be awesome.
Into the commercial real estate world. So again, I'm starting out. I'm kind of starting over, joining mastermind groups, the Hero Nation, Wayne Salomons, who we both know, paying for one-on-one coaching, which is not cheap. Like, that's an investment in yourself altogether. And then I think that the turning point for me was when I joined a group called Legacy Wealth. Tim Bratz.
Yep.
Look him up. The guy's an animal. Just a solid individual, but even, just a beast of an investor. So I was like scrolling Facebook one day, like we all do, not all, but most. And I don't even know how he got on my feed, but he did. And I connected with him. He calls social media the 8th wonder of the world, because it kind of is. Like, it's wild. And so I was like, man, I really like this guy. So I started following his content, and he had this class called Commercial Empire. And that's kind of like his entry level course to kind of get inside of his world and just teach people the basics, right?
Yeah.
Underwriting, finding the deal, funding the deal, like all this stuff. And so I jumped into that. It was a 3-day class online. I think it was $1,000. And I'm like, all right, I'm not stopping this. I'm doing this. So I ended up jumping in his mastermind group. And
so at this moment, so you do the 3-day class. Okay. I'm going to interrupt you. And, in these moments, was it like a paradigm shift opened? Like, you're like, dude, this is what I really want. I need to get involved and around these people. What happened while you were going through this to be like, man, I'm diving in?
I mean, so if you want change, you have to change. And so, yeah, I was swinging the bat, with my active income. I was analyzing some deals on the side. I just wasn't taking action. Like, if you even go back, I started listening to a guy named Keith Weinhold. He's a local from Alaska. Back in 2015, that's when my brain, the paradigm shift started into investing and building wealth.
Yeah.
And then I started listening to Michael Blank when he first started getting going and started teaching people the syndication thing.
Yep.
And I had just bought courses, looked at a few deals, and just had a reason not to take action for whatever reason that was. And so, like, you got to remember, so at this point, I've got 6 years of just consuming, educating, and repeating. And
yeah.
Screw it. I got to do something different.
Yep.
And that's why I jumped into the actual mastermind, and it's $1,000 a month.
Right.
So, like, I'm putting constraints on myself. I got a lot of money going out into education, self-improvement, and whatnot. And so, like, you kind of have to shit or get off the pot, right?
Right.
You can't just keep consuming. So
right.
I jumped into his mastermind. I attended a summit in Austin, Texas. It was the first in-person meeting after all the COVID drama and nonsense. Like, we were still masked. Everyone had to still mask, but we were able to meet.
Yeah.
And it was cool, man. It was just a totally cool experience. Like, a room of 200 investors. Emmett Smith was there. Ryan Pineda was there. There's a couple other awesome speakers that were present, and, like, I was hooked. You get around people that are doing big things, and, like, you start to borrow the beliefs that,
yeah,
why can't I do this?
Right.
So that was the start.
I've come to learn that as we're learning, right, as we're improving in ourselves, there's this process, and sometimes we get stuck in that cycle where we're learning and we're acquiring knowledge and we're building, and a lot of it's building this knowledge where we can talk it, but we're not actively engaging in the activity to use it. And one of the things I like to say is that, knowledge is like seeds. Once you have the knowledge, you want to start planting those seeds. So as you start planting them, then all of a sudden you'll see growth, right? But as the knowledge is up here, a lot of times we get stuck in that analysis paralysis mode.
Yeah.
It's when, I take that knowledge and I plant it. I go out and do it.
Yeah.
I've heard another guy say, a lot of times it's easy to get into the ask hole mentality where you're just asking, because you're so nervous about doing something wrong. A big part of it is just jumping in and getting wet, getting dirty, and just starting to look at and buy property and make that happen. And I think, going back to your journey of, like, I want this. This is the direction I want to go. I'm learning this. The paradigm opened, and then gradually it was like, I need to. Another guy I just spoke to recently. He's like, real estate's a pay to play game.
It is,
and because there's 3 things, right? You need the knowledge, you know how to do it. You need the network and the people around you, and then the last thing you need is you need to get in front of opportunities.
Sure,
you need to get in front of leads, and so these first 2 are the pay to play.
Yeah.
Right, where you're like, okay, I'm learning and I'm connecting with people.
Very few are able to pull off being successful in this business without those 2. I mean, I don't know. I don't personally know one person that is, but I'm sure there's an outlier. But yeah, you nailed it.
Absolutely. So you've joined this mastermind group. You've jumped in.
Yeah. So
tell me about. I want to hear about this storage unit that you purchased and that you were repositioning. Right? You bought this storage unit, right?
Yep.
And walk me through how you found this storage unit, when you bought it, what you were thinking, and then what happened when things got real.
Yeah. And I love the questions, but before I can answer that, I'm going to back it up a little bit more. This will be our theme for the whole podcast.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Drop it like it's hot. So after attending the Austin event, I got connected with an SET attorney.
Okay.
Awesome guy. He's actually raising money for a deal, a couple multifamily deals in Illinois. And so my first at bat into a commercial property was as a limited partner.
Okay.
Yep. I invested $100,000 as an LP. That one had a 9% preferred return paid quarterly. And that one actually offered 4% equity in perpetuity.
Okay.
As an owner, like I own 4% of that LLC. And so like, that was my first swing. And it's wild how things just snowball. My second move was actually into another LP position with the same operators on a different project. Similar returns. The other one had a little bit higher prep, but less equity.
Yep.
And so like, all right, I'm in the game now. It's a mental shift. Like I'm in the game. I'm getting a return on my money. I own technically part of 168 units. I'm in the game. And so yeah, you start gaining confidence. And so I ended up buying an 8-plex off the MLS, been sitting for a year in Eagle River, Alaska. The owner sucked it dry. Like it was a lot of deferred maintenance. But I looked at it, I'm like, you know what? That's not a bad buy. I negotiated the price down.
Yep.
But dude, it's Eagle River, Alaska. Like it's a hot market. And so it wasn't a home run by any stretch, but I was able to get it owner financed, 10% down, with interest only payments for 24 months. And so as an agent representing myself, that was a $20,000 commission.
Yep.
I was 63.5 into it. So really I'm only 43.5 into it. And now I have control of an asset that I can, improve, get NOI up, and then hopefully refinance out. Obviously that whole burst strategy is getting harder with rates climbing, but like that, I was in the game.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking action. I'm swinging bats like, all right, let's do this. And so also, in addition to these masterminds, I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups, right? My First Million Multifamily, awesome freaking group. I'm actually in their deal room, which is the next paid version, or is a paid version of that group. And I just started, networking, and this individual reached out about a commercial lender in Alaska. And so I just responded. I gave him a few choices, and his group actually built a storage facility in Eagle River, and they were kind of looking for some help with some management stuff. It was because they built it new in 2021 and just never got it operating. It sat all winter.
Okay.
So his partner actually reached out to me. He was flying to Alaska, and we met for lunch. Just Eagle River Ale House, or managed a brewery in Eagle River now, and just sat down, man, talk shop. Dude, the guy's doing big stuff. Like he's buying 150 unit apartment complexes in Texas and stuff. Like he's a sharp guy. He's a very sharp guy. And so we talked, and I did like this little real estate ride along through Eagle River. I showed him my 8-plex.
Yep.
Right? And then we drove down the road to Peters Creek, checked out the storage facility. It was under 3 feet of snow. The gate wasn't working. And we just kind of developed rapport.
Yeah. There
wasn't any really wheeling and dealing going on at that point. It was just developing a rapport and seeing how we could help each other. I ended up coming at him with, hey, Sam, I'd love to buy this place off you. I'm really looking to get a start in commercial storage. And so we kind of worked out some terms that worked, and here I am.
Boom. So you worked out the deal. You bought it from him.
Yeah. I mean, basically took control of it. Right.
Yep.
So it was creative financing is going to be the wave of the future moving forward.
Yes.
And so the way we had to structure that was not really unique, but it's not common.
Yeah.
So the bank's not
was it a master lease?
It was a master lease.
Nice.
With option to purchase.
Perfect.
Right. So I came in with a decent down payment, with the purchase price established within the master lease. We established an interest rate, and we established the term of the lease. It was a triple net. I'm still paying property taxes, insurance, and whatnot, and then making my interest payment to him. And so that allowed us to get in there, improve the property, get everything working, get the marketing out, get some people coming in the doors, to where we could get net operating income up as high as possible before we could go get some long-term debt.
So how did that, when you came to the terms, you guys got to the point where you're coming to the end? What did that feel like? Like, were you crazy nervous? Obviously, you'd already done a couple little, smaller deals. Were you nervous? Were you excited? Was there like, am I really doing this? Like, because I know at those moments, those are kind of like a lot of people who haven't experienced this. Guys, go watch Undercover Billionaire. Just FYI. If you go watch Undercover Billionaire, it's so powerful because you see these moments where you have to make this ask. And it's like this insane moment, right? Where it's like, I'm doing this, and you put yourself out there and you're seeing, and then it's like, all right, let's do it. And it's like, yo, I'm in this. Yeah. What was that like for you?
Yeah. So Ronnie, I'll be honest, I spent so many years in the whole consuming phase that, dude, I was just swinging at this point. I honestly, I mean, I was a little nervous. Yeah. But I literally came home and was like, hey, honey, by the way, we're buying a storage facility. She's like, what? We're doing whole timeout, big T, timeout. I'm like, yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of paid retail for an empty facility, and I didn't even care.
Right.
It was like, get in the game. You got to get in the game and get bloody. And I don't know. I just had the confidence that I could force this square peg in a round hole if I had to. Like, that was my mindset.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for.
No, that's awesome, man. So I want to, so along the way, what would you consider, whether it's this deal, going through this deal, or something other? I like to tag in and kind of go down the rabbit trail of what it really looks like to be a business owner, right? And a lot of that has to do with, like you said, taking the swing, doing it. We make a lot of good decisions on the way. We make some bad decisions on the way, and we learn and we get better.
Yeah.
And if we're adjusting and we're taking and we're learning, I believe that we can come out of any situation. There's a reason why they'll lose a bunch of money and they bounce back, right? Because you can't take the lessons away from us, right? There's something liberating about knowing you can't take our skills away from us, right? Nobody can do that, no matter what happens.
Skills or network.
Exactly, right? Like that can't happen. And so in this scenario, you buy this unit, you go through it, you're doing this. What would you consider along the way? Or before I go there, actually, what do you think when you bought the unit? What was your first step to turning this around? Right? Like, you jump in, you bought it, you're in the game. What next? What happened? What's the next part of that story?
Dude, I'll have to send you a picture. So my first step was to remove the 3.5 feet of snow that was inside the entire facility. Okay. I know.
We're talking about Alaska here, guys.
Yeah. So that involved loaders, 966 loaders and stuff. But no, I know where you're going with this. So, like, what's the first step? First step in stabilization is, all right, clear the lot. Second, went right to Wells Fargo, created all our business accounts, got everything legit, got that front done with. And then it was addressing all the deficiencies. Still needed the lot still needed to get final graded. We still needed to get the back-end software built within a software called SiteLink.
Okay.
We had to get the website done. We had to get it in position where someone could click on the links and rent a unit.
Yeah.
There was some other deferred maintenance stuff. I had to go through and drill out 82 frames because the latches were a 1/2 inch off on every single door. They wouldn't latch. So I went through, grabbed my tools, dusted my tools off, sprayed some WD on everything and went to work. And so, yeah, it was just getting all that little stuff that needed to happen completed.
Yeah.
To where we could actually start leasing units. We had to get lawyers involved. I hired a badass lawyer to draft our lease for the unit. And then we had them draft a separate lease for the parking. So we have parking spaces and storage units.
Okay.
Yeah. And then signage, right? We need signage. So you went out and just started pulling the trigger on these big ass 4x8 signs and just started plastering everything with signage. And one of the most critical thing was getting it visible. Ronnie,
Okay.
you know the highway going from Wholesale to Anchorage.
Yeah.
Dude, there's 44,000 cars a day that drive that thing. And you couldn't see this place.
Okay.
Like everybody I talked to, you're like, you bought a storage facility where? I'm like, it's right off the highway. So, with the help of the state of Alaska, they actually kind of a dumb luck. They had a grant to clear all their medians this year.
Okay.
And I was calling the head of the DOT. Like I had a reminder on my phone every 2 weeks. I would call him and I was friendly. It was, hey man, just checking in, seeing if you guys are going to clear anything. And so once we got it visible, we had marketing in place with social media, SEO, all the things working. Like it's taken off. But that took some time, right?
Yeah.
That took time.
Yeah.
We were in the red for 4 months. A lot.
Once you come out of the red, that feeling, I've been there. That feeling is like, it's not quite we made it, but it's like
we can breathe.
Oh, we're not bleeding anymore.
Yeah. Totally.
Like you got okay, we're gonna be okay. So along that journey, what decision did you make that you're like most proud of? Right? Out of that, all of that, getting it to the point where now it's getting leased, it's starting to stabilize.
Yeah.
What decisions along the way do you look back and you're like, man, I'm glad that I did that. I'm glad that I chose to do this. And how did that make the difference for you?
In regards to just stabilizing the storage?
Yeah, stabilizing the storage, or even if you want to go back further into, just the story up until this point.
Sure.
Where do you think those crucial decision points that you're like, man, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be on this journey, right? Or if I didn't, like, I'm proud that I chose to do that when it would have been easy to go the opposite way.
I can just pin it back to just making that mental decision to take the next step in building my network and knowledge. And that was joining Legacy. Like I just needed just one more level of commitment to just get into the mindset of stop analyzing shit. Just make a move, do a deal. Like it doesn't have to be a home run. That Aplex is not a home run.
Right.
Like it's a base hit. If interest rates stayed at 3.5, it'd be probably a double or a triple, but they didn't.
Right.
I'll deal with that. And so like I contribute everything after just making that mental shift just to start swinging the bat.
Okay.
Tim Bratz always says like, you got to get to 100 doors. Like you got to build your balance sheet. You can't sit on the sidelines and expect deal flow and money and network just to naturally come at you. You got to start doing deals.
Well, and part of that, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I think part of that, there's an element in the commercial realm, and this is what I'm running into. I'm mainly a single family, right? I've been doing single family for a long time. I've been doing a ton of creative financing. and focusing on that. But when you go into the commercial realm, it's not just let me learn, let me figure it out. There's really this idea of street credit.
There is.
Like,
Absolutely.
and like what you said, and I wanted to bring that up, guys, because get to 100 doors. The reason why that's powerful is you buy one facility and gates open for you, because now you have street credit. Now you're in the game. You're playing the game, and people want to be around other people who are playing the game.
Yeah.
And as you're in the game, it actually gives you more power. I'll give you an example. I think it was 5 years ago. It was longer than that. I had to be closer to 8. It was right when I started my own company by myself. I was partners with a couple guys, and then I went off on my own.
Yeah.
And I was raising money for I don't think it was the first money that I raised, but it was around the first, like when I really started going outside of my circle. Right.
Right.
And trying to raise money, and I wasn't really sure how to do it, and I didn't know how to have the conversations. And finally, with this, I had a really good deal. At that time, I really was nervous about hard money. I didn't know what I thought about it back then. And so I'm trying to do a deal. I'm trying to get private money. I'm trying to make it happen. And finally I was just like,
yeah,
I was talking to
this guy. Had some limiting beliefs going on.
Right. Yeah. I talked to this guy, and I was just like, dude, what if we just split it 50-50? You bring the money, I'll do the deal. Right. Yeah. Like, let's just JV on this deal. You bring the money, I'll bring the time, the energy, the knowledge. I'll do the deal. I'll manage the project. Like, we're good. And he's like, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
And from that moment, it opened up one of my first private money lender relationships. Right. And now we did a deal together. We made money together. And once we were there, now I have a guy who's an advocate for me that's like, yeah, I've worked with Ronnie. So the next guy I go to, I could go, yeah, my lender. I don't have to tell him the terms necessarily, but I could say, hey, like, we did a deal together. This is my other lender. And they're like, okay, cool. And then it's, I'm looking for 10% for, 5 years on the owner finance. And it's like, well, could you do 3? I was like, yeah, I could do 3. And all of a sudden now I've got an actual private money lender that's loaning me 10% on 3 years. And it's like, oh, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then I stopped raising money. So it took me a while to get back into it after that. But there's an aspect of, once you're in the game, the next conversation is easier.
Yeah. It's credibility is everything in this business. Well, I mean, credibility is everything in any business, but especially when you're asking someone for $100,000 of their hard-earned money.
Yes.
And so,
absolutely.
Ronnie, I mean, I've recently pivoted to raising capital myself. I'm in these big, massive rooms of all these investors, and like, there's usually 4 different team members to a big commercial deal. You got the guy that finds the deal.
Yep.
The guy that brings money to the deal. You typically have a KP or someone that can qualify for the loan. And then you have an asset manager or investor relations, like someone to manage the deal. I realized, being from Alaska, like, I still intend on doing deals in Alaska, but like I want to expand, not just in Alaska. There's a lot of opportunity elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like, the value I could bring to a partnership would be to raise capital. And I know that. And I actually raised my first $100,000 for a successful operator from Legacy Family, from an individual that I didn't know. He lives in my hometown, but I had that credibility story of, hey, I am actually a limited partner in 2 deals. Like, I see the power in this style of passive investing, because everyone's after this passive income. There ain't nothing passive about real estate investing, unless you are a limited partner. That is like the truest form of passive real estate investing. And that's what he wanted. Like, he's a busy guy. He's successful, owns his own business. Like, he didn't want to deal with tenants and toilets.
Yep.
So I offered him a solution to that, a very strong solution tied to real assets. And he's loving it. But it all comes back to doing that first deal, getting credibility, swinging the bat, and then just don't let off the gas.
Man, I think that's really powerful. And so, guys, as you are out there and you're pursuing your own financial freedom, right? As we are like, what does this look like? What does that? Make some decisions, take some action, analyze the properties as best you can, negotiate the best you can, but don't sit on the sidelines. Like, jump in and learn and be connected with a group of people. And I think there's another aspect to that we didn't get into, but when they say that you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most. So the question is, who you hanging around?
Yeah.
Right. Are you hanging around with people at the next level? Are you hanging around with, your buddy from college that's broker than you? Right? Like, who are you connected with? And there's this aspect. I was listening to this other guy this other day, and he made a point, and he said, I make my money by making friends and getting 30% of people's income to pay me. Right? Basically, his idea is holding rental properties or multifamily units.
Yep.
Right? Like, 30% of their income is coming into my bank account to pay my real estate and pay my pocket. So my job is to make friends and get people to pay me 30% of their income. And I thought that was really awesome, because he's like, I'm constantly leveling up my friends in the areas that I want to invest. If I want to invest in Florida, I go there and I make friends. I get to know the attorneys. I get to know the investors. I get to know all the service providers. I get to know the managers. And you start being around people and leveling up those acquaintances. And then all of a sudden it's like, yo, let me call Jeremiah. Like, he's up in Alaska, but he said he could raise some money for us here in Florida. Like, let's jump on the phone and see what he's got to offer. And then all of a sudden you're in a conversation about a $10 million deal in Florida, and they're like 1, 2, 3, and you're like, hey, let me make a few phone calls. You make a couple phone calls, and now, you pull a gangster move, and now you have a piece of this property.
5% of it. What's 5% of a $20 million project?
A lot of money.
A lot of money. Like, and so it all comes back to the grape and the watermelon analogy. Would you rather have a grape or a bite of a big watermelon? And like, that's the mentality of the commercial real estate world, and that's why it's so scalable.
Yeah,
and
dude, that's super powerful. So along the way, we've talked about learning what's been good, what's been. I want to know something that you made a decision that was terrible. You made the decision, and it was like sent you down this trajectory. You got plunged in the water, and you had to fight to get back out. And what'd you learn from that?
Holy cow! You said we only have an hour, right? No. I can touch on one of those decisions in the sales career, and then I can maybe go into one on the investing side. So in the sales, I always think back to this. What was it? It was a internet marketing to get leads, kind of a digital marketing strategy, that magic pill that gets sold to so many new entrepreneurs and real estate people. And it was we're gonna build this lead magnet and all these lead flows, and these leads were gonna come into this perfect little graph, and I can just pull them in and call them, and they're gonna be ready to buy or sell a house.
Yep.
Dude, it cost me, I think I had like 13 grand. This was when I was first getting going. I didn't have a lot of money. Like, I didn't have money. And it was like $13,000. And all that did was just provide distractions, because these are cold leads from who knows where. And it just didn't work. I was avoiding the things I knew worked, like going out there and making real phone calls to my network, delivering value to people. Like, those are the things that work, not this internet magic pill thing. So anyway, that decision was terrible, but I learned from it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I get from that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremiah, is there's no substitute for the real hard work.
No.
Right? Like, if something promises you something with no work, like, be suspect.
If someone offers you the easy button, be very skeptical.
Right. One of the things that I started doing So when I started my internet push, the guy I approached to, and I was talking and talking to him with a couple different people and going is, does this guy really believe in me, or is he just trying to provide me the bare minimum and get me to pay him full price? And hey, I want to pay you along the way. As I'm successful, I want to pay you as that's happening over time, not, hey, I'm going to do this up front and you're just going to do that. Like, do you really believe in that? And just by doing that, just by taking that extra time, man, I weeded out a ton of people. You know what I'm saying? Even now, my stuff has just started very recently, and there's so many people. Oh, let me help.
Yeah.
And, but really it's pay this. And it's like, now, how are we going to grow this together? Like, how are you partnering with me to go to the next level? And what's your investment in this as much as mine?
Sure.
And that's powerful, man, because it is easy to kind of, just promise you something, the $13,000, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, what now? That's good. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no. And it's hard to answer this question because I view all of my mistakes and all the money I've wasted on maybe courses or classes, or I just view those as I learned from them. I learned something from there. Like, I don't even view them as mistakes anymore.
Yeah.
I don't get mad about it. I don't dwell on much anymore. It's just like, just choose and move. Yeah, that was stupid. Just choose and move. Keep going. But like the deals I have done, honestly, I wish I would have given myself a little bit more runway. Because I didn't underwrite these deals for 7.5%, 8% interest rates. Okay, so that's huge.
Yeah.
So my back is against the wall on both deals, right? To perform. And then on the refinance, like I should have given myself more outs.
Okay.
Or negotiate some options, some extensions, or crystal ball.
So being able to anticipate additional scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. So when you think of that, when you think of negotiating different scenarios, how would you do it differently now?
So on the storage deal, I probably would have tried to negotiate a step up payment. So my payments would be tied to occupancy somehow.
Okay.
Instead of just like getting a hold of this thing and having a ton of CapEx expenses, having to make the full interest payment with no income coming in. Like, dude, it was touch and go for a while.
Okay.
That's kind of how I would have done or try to negotiate that one a little bit better. The Aplex definitely would have tried to negotiate an extension.
Okay.
Maybe $2,500 to extend for 6 months, or $5,000 to extend for a year. Just, some kind of extension in there for some options.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think that those options, they just give comfort, right? They just make you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And no, that's awesome. So let me ask you this, kind of change gears. You're doing a lot, right? You're selling, you've got the commercial, you're educating, you're doing multiple streams, you're looking at more properties, you're raising money, you're in 2 deals. How does Jeremiah stay disciplined and focused?
That's a work in progress.
Okay.
Within the last 3 months, I have purposely been saying no to more. That's one.
Okay.
I have dropped a few commitments. I completed them. Like, I didn't quit them, but I will be no longer involved with a couple of different, maybe it's boards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Putting those down. And I actually recently looking at hiring he's a VA, but he's a badass. Like, he's not just, he's a person that's going to help me rein it all in. Like, what are my 3 main buckets of revenue?
Yep.
And how do I pour gas on those 3? Not like they keep talking about having 7 streams of income, but which is awesome. But like to have 7 active streams of income is a disaster.
Right.
I don't know personally, but
well, and on that, I love multiple streams of income, but where multiple streams of income come in is when you have money.
Yeah.
Right. That you can put in and to invest in different things. Actively, most people only have one major stream of income through potentially 3 funnels, just like what you said. I was just one of my students, we were just talking about it. Okay, what are the 3 funnels we're going to create for you? Right? What are these 3 revenue paths? How do you want to find deals? Do you want to find them this way, and this way? Or because there's a bunch like, well, what if we did, what if we did PPC? What if we did SEO? What if we did? I was like, no. Look, all that's awesome. But we need to narrow it down to 3. And then we need to build out these 3 with 1 primary. And what it allows us to do is just like you said, it's focus. Yeah. Otherwise, you just dabble in a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And you're not really there.
So, I mean, one of the best pieces of advice out there, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if Chris Rude coined this or not, but like he talks about fast, medium, and slow money. I mean, to make it in this business, like that is so freaking true. You got to have fast money. You got to have medium money and slow money. Like fast money for me is commissions.
Yeah.
Slower money for me is I help people, small businesses file for the employee retention credits. I am affiliated with ERC Specialist. It's slower.
Yeah.
And then or the medium. And then my slow money is my passive income coming from my limited partner investments. That's getting paid to me quarterly. I don't have to do anything for that money, but that's coming in. That's my slow money.
Yep.
So but it's critical, man. You've got to have it. If you're going to stabilize properties and play this game, you cannot just be a real estate investor. You got to be hustling.
Yeah, man. That's and I think that once you're in there, it doesn't take as much. Like I find people jump in there like, I want to do, 1,000 doors tomorrow, right? Or I want to buy 100 single family homes. It's like, that's awesome. I love that. I love the thinking big, but you don't need that much. Like focus on what does it take to get my first 6?
Yeah.
Okay. My first 6, once I'm here, okay, where am I at? How do I go to the next level? What does that next level look like? And having that big, hairy, audacious goal, but then you have, how do I get these under my belt and start grabbing these? I think, man, I think a lot of what you shared, I appreciate you being open because a lot of people don't talk about the struggles that they go through, right? Those kind of battle scars along the way that makes us who we are. Because a lot of the decisions that we were making, I love what you said. You said move and choose.
Choose and move.
Choose and move. There it is.
Nate Bailey, the 100-mile man. Nate Bailey, look him up. I got that from him. He's in the motivational, build a better version of yourself space, but he's a badass. And like he preaches choose and move. Like don't sit there and dwell or overthink things. And so the guy's awesome.
Because we can change our decision. And I think that's the thing that is often missed is if we make a decision and we're going and we realize it's not right. I think Tony Robbins says, if you make a decision and realize it's not right, you're going to get faster. You're going to get to the right decision faster because you chose it.
Yeah.
Rather than sitting there and trying to be like, man, what's the right? And then you sit there for, 5 years where if you would have chose year 1, gone this way, realized it wasn't the right thing, and then chose to go the other way, it's like you would have been there in a year and a half.
Yep.
And I think that's really, really powerful. So
yeah.
You want to add anything to that?
I just want to emphasize what you said earlier. Like people don't really understand the path and the effort it takes to make it as an entrepreneur or trying to build that life that you dream about building. And the bottom line is like you just have to make that decision internally. Like when I stopped I was plumber for 16 years, right? I cut cold turkey, and I went into a profession I knew nothing about. And there's a process involved, but there were self-sabotaging things I was doing prior to quitting plumbing. And those things, they followed me into my real estate career early on. One of them was that, I had a drinking problem. I did. And
Yeah.
I had to fix that. I haven't drank alcohol in over 3.5 years.
Man, that's awesome.
That was a self-sabotaging behavior that needed to get fixed to progress. So like, I'm just saying, like, there's a path that it goes like this. You have to take, but you just have to stick with it, surround yourself with the right people, don't roll over, and just have a vision that's so strong that you can push through those times of self-doubt and recover faster.
The game is, I've talked to quite a few people about this now. The game is mental.
Oh,
like it's so crazy that the game really is, it's all in the mind, right? And because it's limiting beliefs, it's the self-sabotaging behaviors, it's the motivation, it's the self-doubt, it's the all of that stuff plays a thing where someone told me, for a long time I didn't want to do social media, and I wanted to do it, but I was kind of nervous. And one of my friends pulled me aside, man, and he's like, Ronnie, you're helping out all these investors get to the next level. You're on the side making this happen. He's like, dude, people are literally scared that you're actually going to do this, and you're over here doubting yourself.
Yeah.
Like, bro, just do it for you. Like, just do it because you, and it was so powerful because it was like, what's really holding me back is me. It's nothing else, right? It's nothing else. And it really came to the point where it's like, man, I want to do this. I want to do this, one, to help people, but I want to do this because it's something I want to do as well, right?
And you're authentic, and your wealth of knowledge, and you have a lot of knowledge to give, and you're good at it. You're a good educator. I think you've read 3,000 books probably.
Maybe not quite that much, but I'm up.
You're
there.
A student. You're a student, and so like I'm glad you finally pulled the trigger on that. But one other main or huge thing that people cannot do, and I'm guilty of it myself, is when you get in a rut, right? You get in a hole. We've all been there. We all get there still. You gotta stop digging.
Yeah.
You gotta learn to recover faster. We're all gonna go through shit. I will have hard time. There are hard times ahead for me. I know that.
Yep.
And you just gotta learn to recover faster. That's been huge for me. Huge for me.
Gotta learn to recover fast, dude. That's powerful. Yep. All right. So I want to transition. Okay. So at the end of these podcasts, I do what I call a speed round, and it's basically a speed round of value. It's just a few things we can give people to go in. And guys, as you're listening to this, if you're finding this valuable, like this podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and let us know some of your key takeaways, right? As we're going this is about unpacking the journeys of us as real estate investors and really understanding the struggles that we go through, the accomplishes that we're making, the direction we're heading to build a community of people who want to win, who want to take their life and build financial freedom. So before we go back and go into that stuff.
Don't just like this, smash that like button.
There we go.
And before I came on here, I saw Ronnie had 90 subscribers. That's BS. We need to get that above 100. That's when the YouTube algorithm starts working.
Nice. Well, it's brand new. It's going to be up there here soon. So thank you. All right. Question number 1. And this is going to be in your active business. Okay. If there was only one metric you could track in your business, what would it be?
One metric I could track in my active business,
in your
real
active
estate
business. Yep. You could do your commercial too if you have one.
My commercial?
Yeah, if you have one.
What do you mean by the commercial?
Like in the commercial side of the business, you could
Oh,
like one metric that you track and or your active business.
man, that is actively having conversations with my sphere of influence, my network. How many of those conversations am I having? I'm not talking about, hey, do you want to buy or sell your home, or do you want to buy or sell your commercial building? I'm talking just checking in, having a piece of value to bring to them, a tip, trick, whatever. Maybe educate them on the market. Just how many of those conversations am I having per week?
Okay. That's really, really good. What book would you recommend a real estate investor reads to help them out?
100% Who Not How.
Ooh, okay.
Because I pin all my struggles in business and real estate into me wearing all the hats and like trying to do it all. And I've carried this on my shoulders for 3.5 years. And you can do that. Like I've done well, works, but you can never get to the next level. You can never grow efficiently. It's like who, not how. Is the preface of the book is finding the who to do the how, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to figure out how to do everything. And that's what I'm in the process of doing. I told you I'm looking at hiring a guy. And
Nice.
like, so if you just out of the gate, you just start finding who's, dude, you will be so much further ahead than you will been trying to figure everything out yourself.
That's good. That's good. Who, not how. You touched on this, but what are you intentionally doing to mastermind and build your network with other investors? What do you do intentionally to build that?
Yeah, I mean, out of the gate, just joining Legacy Wealth, that was huge. Paying to be in the right rooms with the right people. That's not just it though. Like you can't just jump in these groups, pay the big money, fly to these conferences. You have to intentionally develop rapport, reach out, check in, you have to be genuine, and people can sense people that are full of shit.
Right.
You really have to just be genuine in your intentions, and just like bringing value to people is huge. Facebook groups, like it's free. Like they're free. Right. It is unreal to me how much information is available out there in these Facebook groups. Like it's wild to me.
Yeah. And you just got to dig a little bit.
If you don't have money, just start joining these free Facebook groups. I mean, typically there's a funnel, right? You get into them and they're going to funnel you into a paid version. But really, I mean, the paid version separates the people that just have their toes in the water.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you lost it all today, what would you do?
It's crazy you asked me that question. I actually thought about this. I know you're going to ask me this question, but I thought about that the other day. I'm like, I have spent so much time and money and resources and effort into building my network in the last 18 months that if I lost everything, like I could rebuild. I know that. And I have my wife on board with me now in our business. And dude, there's the hashtag power couple.
Yeah.
You can take that for whatever that means. Like we work very well together when we're in the right roles. Yeah. So I just know that together we could rebuild pretty much anything.
You know, I heard it said that if you find yourself without work or you find yourself in a bad spot, if you have the right network, you can get on track in 6 weeks, right? You can get back on track in a 6-week time period. You'll be on the right track in the direction of making money. If your network is poor, then it's going to take you much longer to either find a job or to figure out what you're going to do to add value because you don't have anybody to reach out to. And so I think for you guys who are out there, what he just said is really powerful. like if you have a good, strong network, you should be able to make 100 calls. And then out of those 100 calls, you should be able to get some meetings, and you should be able to work your way into a direction and find a trajectory. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So
yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, Jeremiah, thank you so much for being on. If people wanted to reach out to you, how can they do that?
I'm on Facebook, Jeremiah Benson. I don't even know what my handle is. Email, we can maybe put that in the show notes or whatever. And we put my cell in there as well. But you can look me up on Facebook and connect that way. And yeah, man, looking forward to building more relationships and getting on some more podcasts. And
let's do it.
Value.
I love it. Well, Jeremiah, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your journey and what you're learning and where you're going along the way. This is super exciting. It's been awesome, man.
Appreciate it again, Ronnie.
Absolutely.
Have a good rest of your week.